AI art has stirred tons of controversy because of its potential to replace artists. Today, we're putting that idea to the test by finding out if AI art can compete with a human artist. We want to compare things like speed, ease, and overall quality, and to do that, we'll be completing a series of tasks. For each task, we'll edit one image using Adobe's AI generative fill, and the other I'll edit using the classic Photoshop tricks and techniques that I've learned on my own. To keep things fair, we'll only use Adobe, and by the end, you'll see what techniques AI can actually help with, and what techniques you should probably just learn Photoshop for. And by the end of this video, you'll know how to use Photoshop and Firefly Plus. By the way, thanks for checking out the AI Marketing and Creator Tools channel, where we cover the best ways to use AI for your own content. I'm starting with Photoshop so you can see the work and techniques required, and then go to using AI. Alright, our first task is to replace a background. This is a pretty standard Photoshop technique, and people have been using Photoshop for this for decades. So we're gonna get this image of this guy right here, just against a normal regular brick wall, and we're gonna see if we can put him in a more scenic setting, perhaps in front of a waterfall. For my version, with using no AI and just my classic Photoshop techniques, what I'm first gonna do is remove the background. Now, actually, this is technically still using a little bit of AI because in Adobe's latest update, they've replaced their quick selector tool with this magic selector. So it basically uses AI to really quickly identify an object you want to select, but that is now just part of the normal workflow, so we're still going to use it. And as you can see, it's really easy to select a subject. But once you select the subject and remove the background, you can see that sometimes it doesn't quite get the edges right, especially on imagery with fine detail like hair. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go in and use the history brush tool, which basically is like a brush that is a time travel in Photoshop. So it just brings it back to how it looked originally. So I'm gonna go through, and this is kind of tedious, so we'll speed it up, but I'm gonna go through and kind of work all the edges, make sure it looks good, make sure there's nothing weird that's happening. With any AI sort of tool, you really have to go in and make sure it didn't mess anything up. All right, it all looks good. So now, in order for me to change the background, I'm gonna actually have to find another photo of the background that I want and put that in instead. So I have it here. It's just your classic, waterfall scene. So let's see if we can put our guy in front of this waterfall. So the first thing we're gonna do is just drag the layer beneath the layer of our guy, and you can see it already, I mean, he's there, but it doesn't quite look real. It looks like, we just cut and paste him, which is what we did. So now we're gonna go in and do some detail work to actually make it look good. So the first thing we're gonna do is imitate a depth of field that a camera would have, which means we're gonna blur the background. So a lot of times when you're taking a photo, the focus plane will be on the subject and not on the background, which means the background will be blurry. So that's actually really easy to imitate. We just go up to a Gaussian blur, add that, and adjust it to our liking. We don't want to go too far, but just enough so it looks like the background is slightly out of focus. All right, that already looks a little bit more realistic, but the biggest thing you'll want to do to make these images blend together is color correction. So we're gonna go in and add some adjustment layers, adjust the curves, which is just the overall brightness and exposure levels for this guy. And we're just gonna try and soften the lighting a little bit and get it to look more like it's in the world with this waterfall. Then we'll go into the color balance and maybe add a little bit of green, since there would be a lot of green light reflected on him, presumably, if you were actually standing here. And so that's already looking a lot better. It looks like it matches a lot more. And you basically just want to make sure that the black parts of the image of your guy matches the black parts of the image of the background, and the whites match the white. Now that we have the background in, we can see that our selection of the guy is not quite as clean as we'd like. So let's go in and use the eraser tool and just do some fine-tuned cleaning just to make sure we don't have any weird edges all around our guy. So I'm gonna speed this up because it takes a while. This is the tedious part that hopefully we'll see if AI can help speed this this up because most of using Photoshop is just cleaning up small details like this. All right, that's looking pretty good. And what I will sometimes like to do is add a filter over the entire image once I'm done to just make sure everything is kind of looking cohesive and giving everything the same color treatment. So I'm gonna just go and quickly look through some of Photoshop's presets and find one that I like. So once I did that, you can see it's looking pretty good. Yeah, and this kind of just makes it so that all the colors are going through the same filter and it looks really cohesive. But as I'm looking at this full image, I realize there's one pretty glaring mistake that gives away that this is fake, and that is in the glasses. As you can see, our quick selection tool did not realize that the light coming through the glasses was actually coming from the background. So we're gonna have to go in and manually erase that, which isn't too hard. You just take your eraser tool and erase the layer so the background shines through. And yeah, once you do that, you don't have to get it to look perfect because it's so small. And as you can see, once you zoom out, it looks pretty good. So here's our final image. Now let's see what the results are if we use only AI. Okay, so I have my same image here and I'm gonna just use AI and see if I can get something similar, better, see how long it takes me. So the first thing I'm gonna do is use the really nifty remove background tool, which is part of the generative fill pop-up toolbar. So once I click that, you'll see it already removes our background much better and cleaner than the quick selection tool, which we used earlier. Now, one of the things that we might be able to do with the AI generative fill that I couldn't do on my own is actually make this a bit of a wider shot. So this is a kind of a tight shot and maybe we want to see a little bit more of the background, but obviously I don't have the rest of his body in the image, so I can't really make him smaller. But let's see if we can use generative fill to do that. All right, so you can see this already looks better. It did a pretty good job. As you can see around the edges, it is really clean because obviously it generated it all itself. It didn't have to clean anything up. I'm gonna choose this third one because I like the background the best, but it's really up to you. I think the third one just looks the most realistic, except for, of course, this weird thing in the background right here. I don't know what that is, but luckily with AI, if there's something you don't want, you literally just circle it and press the generative fill and it'll fill it with something else. So that already looks a lot better. Yeah, and that's pretty simple. So here's our guy that we put him next to a waterfall with AI, and here's our guy with the waterfall that's all manually. I think the AI still isn't quite there with bodies. You can see there's a lot of weird folds, and again with the AI generated imagery in the background. So there's a technique for capturing photographs called long exposure, where you get this really smooth water that looks like this. But as you can see, AI is pulling from a ton of different images of waterfalls. So some of it is like that, and some of it is just regular looking waterfall, and I think that's why it doesn't look quite right. So yeah, I think I would personally go with the manually generated image, even though it did take a lot longer. But let me know in the comments what you guys think, which one you would prefer, and if the time saved is worth going with the AI generated image. Canva is another tool that can easily change backgrounds, and is especially helpful for people who aren't familiar with Photoshop at all. We just did a breakdown of Canva's latest AI features on our channel. You can find the link in our description. And if you're enjoying this video so far, hit the like button to let us know we're doing a good job, and subscribe for upcoming Adobe tutorials. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna do is remove somebody from a group photo. This is very useful if you decide you don't want to be friends with someone anymore. So yeah, I've done this a lot with Photoshop. It's usually pretty time consuming. So here's our image. Let's say we no longer want to be associated with this dude in the red flannel here. So the first thing we're gonna do is select everybody but him and copy them to a new layer. So that just gives us this image with this hole where he's supposed to be. And this will just help later if we have to go back to the original image for some reason, or if we want to put elements from the original image back in. What I'm going to be using is something called the clone tool. It basically sources pixels from another area of the image and copies them to where you want. So this is really useful for extending backgrounds, especially really simple backgrounds like these. So the first thing I'll do is just try and get the biggest areas out of the way that I can, and then I'll go in for the detail work. And this is usually pretty tedious and time consuming. It can take a while, especially with the edges like this guy's shoulder. But yeah, it's just a matter of going back and forth between zooming in and getting really nitty gritty with the detail work, and then zooming out and making sure that it doesn't look too weird in the context of the whole image. Here is the final image. I think it looks pretty good. If you really look for it, you can see a little bit of weird blurring around her head, but nobody would notice that upon first glance. It looks pretty natural. However, this did take me a while, so let's see what we can do with AI. So we're back here with our guy back in the photo, but he's not gonna last long. Let's take him out. All right, so we'll start with the hands, see how it works, and wow, that works very well. You can see in one option, we have a little bit of something weird going on with the background in the first one. I'm gonna go with the second, just because his hair is sticking out kind of weird. In the third one, it looks realistic. Let's just do him a favor and make his hair look better. Okay, cool. Now let's try it with the whole guy, see what happens. And wow, oh my gosh, so easy and so quick. And it looks honestly really good. Maybe even better than my tedious method. Let us know in the comments what you guys think. Comment human or AI. I think if we compare them and look really closely, we can see that I think I might prefer my version a little bit. There's a little bit less distortion around the edges of the obvious AI generated bits, but for time saved, I think I would go with AI in the future, because the time saved is just, it's totally worth it. Okay, and for our last project, we are going to try and create a new image. We're gonna try and add things to this image to make it seem a little bit more fantasy. Bear with me because I'm not a Photoshop expert, but I'm gonna do my best and just compare to see what I can do versus what this AI can do. So I wanna create a fantasy world. I've already gathered some imagery. First, I'm gonna put this dragon in and resize it, reframe. Then I'm gonna get some flame imagery from Canva and see if I can make it coming out of the mouth. So this is just a matter of selecting, positioning, and you wanna get it just right. And yeah, then cleaning up the edges, trying to make it blend a little bit more. And then yeah, let's position it so it looks like our guy is really looking at it, but also that he's not getting burned by the flames. So there's that. Then we're gonna take the volcano and put this in the background. And we're gonna do that by copying and pasting parts of the background and putting it in a new layer above the volcano so we can make it look like it has some depth. Then yeah, it's just cleaning up the edges. I'm gonna mess around with blending modes to see if I can make it look a little bit more like it's in this actual image. And then what's really gonna tie this all together is the coloring. By making everything match the color of this original image, it's just gonna make it look way less like a photoshopped image and make it look more real. So we're gonna adjust the saturation, the curves, the contrast, and the color balance. There's a lot of light pinks and greens in this original image, so we're gonna try and replicate that. And then we can copy and paste that to the other layers that we added and mess around with it, because each one will have individual needs. We want to increase the contrast on this dragon a little bit, and there we go. There's our fantasy image. So now let's see what AI can do and how it looks compared to this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give myself the same amount of time that it took to create that previous image and see if I can go even further using just the AI tools. All right, so the first thing I want to do is add some color to this image. It's a bit desaturated, so let's see if we can add some flowers into the foreground. So I'm just gonna select and type flowers, and these are okay. They're not quite as colorful as I'd like, so let's try again, maybe adding a qualifier that says colorful flowers. All right, these are definitely more colorful. Let's go with this second option because it seems to blend the best with the original image. Okay, so now let's see if we can add a castle or something into the background just to give it some more fantasy touch. Actually, before I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna delete that variation, and I'm actually gonna go ahead and change the sky first, because I think that'll be easiest. So I'm gonna select everything but our guy in the foreground and see if I can make the sky be a really nice sunset. I'm not really liking any of these. They don't look quite as spectacular as I'd like, and you can see that they're all messing with our guy. So I think this guy is kind of confusing the AI generator. So let's just try again, see if we can get anything else. Okay, similar results. None of them are looking great. So let's try another technique. I'm gonna go ahead and select everything but leave a little bit of a border around our guy so that we can make sure his figure stays unaltered. So already it's looking a little bit more integrated. I like these trees. I'm gonna stick with them. Now let's see, what else can we add? I'm gonna see if I can add some mountains in the background just to give it a little bit more depth. And these are not looking great, so let's not do that. Let's see if we can add some clouds to the top to give it more color up there. So I think our problem is it's really trying to match the color of our original image, so it's not giving us what we want in terms of color. So in that case, what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna delete the trees that we had and try again with the sky, but I'm gonna specify that we want red and orange clouds at sunset. There we go. Okay, these are looking good, but you can see it got a little bit confused with our selection and how to blend it with the original image. This one looks pretty good though, so I'm gonna go with this one, and let's see if we can put some more things in the foreground to hide this obvious gradient that the AI has created. So first, let's see if we can go back to putting our castle here in this section of the image, and all right, that's looking pretty cool. So let's go with this one, and now I want to put a big tree, maybe a weeping willow over here. Nice, that's looking cool. I actually really like the contrast of the desaturated image in the middle and the pops of orange and pink and yellow at the top and bottom of the frame. It creates a cool symmetry, but I still would like to blend this a little bit better. So let's select and give ourselves a mountain or something. Oh, that's pretty cool. So obviously this doesn't look super realistic. It's definitely more of like a artistic style, surrealist photo, but I really like this combination of the black and white looking stuff and then the colorful stuff at the top and bottom. But I'd like to balance it out a little bit with, I feel like this chunk of orange at the top is a little bit too solid, so let's try and add some birds flying overhead. Nice, I like this one. Okay, and it looks like our time is up. So this is what I could create with AI in the same amount of time that I used to alter the image with just my Photoshop techniques. As you can see, I did a lot more with the AI stuff, and although there was a lot of trial and error, we still got a really cool image in a really short amount of time. And I definitely prefer this image to the one I created. It's much more engaging and just looks really nice. Let us know in the comments which one you think is better. All right, my takeaways from this experiment is that if you want to quickly alter a photo and make it look cool, the Firefly is really good for that. Whereas if you want to go in and be really specific about what you want, you might have to go back to regular Photoshop tools. While the AI generative fill is really, really useful, it's not quite at the level of precision and control that you can get as a Photoshop artist just yet. That being said, it does save so much time, especially with that really precise detail work, but you have a lot less control over the image. So it really comes down to a balance of efficiency versus precision. If you have a client that you really want something specific, you're gonna have to just do the grunt work and do it the old school way with your classic Photoshop tools and techniques. But if it's something that's really quick, something like creating a lot of thumbnails or doing batch work, the AI generative fill will definitely speed up your workflow. If you enjoyed today's challenge, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe for our upcoming videos. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.